Hello and welcome back to the Authentic Creative, expanding our capacity to feel good. I'm very excited today because Kimberly Leemans, a dear, gorgeous friend, is here. She is a talented creative professional, devoted mother, and wife to filmmaker Falk Hentschel. After moving to Enterprise, Oregon, they embraced a more tranquil, nature-filled lifestyle while still pursuing their careers in film. Kimberly's notable IMDb credits include appearances in The Walking Dead, America's Next Top Model, and The Vampire Diaries, where she showcased her versatility as an actress. She also starred in this amazing movie you guys have to go see if you haven't seen it. Actually, don't go, just be in your home and see it. Swap Me Baby, a fan favorite that helped solidify her place in the entertainment industry. And this year, Kimberly is set to release two highly anticipated projects, Recollection and The Atheist and The Ableist, further showcasing her talent and range, balancing motherhood, marriage, and her flourishing career. Kimberly continues to make her mark in the world of film and television. Thank you so much for being here, Kim. You've been on the podcast before.
Yes, a long time ago now.
And that was a minute ago, and a lot has happened since then in your world. You've
Yeah.
moved, you've gone across the country, you've gone to Germany, you've been all over Europe. Like, maybe catch us up a tiny bit. You were
Uh,
living in Bend.
we were at White Rock Ranch then. I feel like I was in the midst of like a 2-year-old, that life of like with a 2.5-year-old ish.
Yes,
We did a breath work session right before that interview, which
that's
felt
right.
really good. And I was like, I kind of was like, I hope we don't have to do a breathwork session before this one because I am just like not in the space, booby, body, mind.
Speaking of booty, for those who are watching on YouTube, show them your t-shirt. It says it's a beautiful day in the laborhood. We are going to be talking about labor. And that's what, kicked off this conversation for us. And then I said, I want to record this is but you were catching us up a little bit, and then just so they know, we're going to be talking about water home birth.
Yeah, thank you, Siri. I mean, Siri was a big part of this birth, actually, which was so special, and I felt so held by you that whole night. Well, even days before, because you'd been checking in, and you were like, "I'm gonna send you Reiki, and I'm chanting for you," and I really felt so calm that entire week before the baby came. My body was so comfortable. I felt so good. It was so, I mean, my pregnancy in general was a beautiful pregnancy, thank God. But just, the aches and the creaks and the sleeplessness leading up to birth can get uncomfortable. But I felt so good the week before, and I feel like you had a lot to do with that. And then the night that I went into labor, which was on my daughter's due date, very German, very punctual. um, yeah, I sent you a little text because you were like, well, either way, you were keeping up with me. You were like, how are you feeling? This and that. And then I sent you a little text to be like, I think things might be moving if you wouldn't mind, kind of chanting for me and keeping me in your thoughts. And though I was texting you up until like probably my pushing, I had a very fast, efficient birth, probably because of all of the universal help. So thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
well, okay, so let's back up a little bit because I know it's important for both you and I to have people that are listening understand that Kim and I know that this is not always people's experience, and that we totally honor and appreciate and validate if your experience was very, very, very different from Kim's experience. And everyone has the birth journey that they are going to have and are meant to have in some cosmic, mystical way. And not everyone has the privilege of getting pregnant, being pregnant, birthing a baby. Like we just want to honor that. because that's important for you to be seen, heard, known, understood in your process of your journey. It's not normal, unfortunately, to have the kind of experience that Kim had, unfortunately. But the reason this conversation is so important, and you show it in Swap Me Baby, a natural birth, a life imitating our imitating life. The reason it's so important for us to have these conversations with people who have had really positive birth experiences is because we want to model that
Yeah.
this is a possibility. This is a possibility. It's not to say everyone's going to have this exact experience because your experience is perfect for your journey, but this is a possibility. And I think it's really important for, the movie that you guys created, you and Falk created, it was literally the only movie that I've ever seen birth in that way. And and then, of course, in your life, you've had these natural home births. And it's really important for women to understand and men to understand so they're not scared that this is totally possible. And yes, of course, you need to get with a team you trust. And so that's what I want to kind of go through with you is like, with both of your births, they were natural, right? And so you knew prior to having these births that this was your plan, yeah? This is
Mhm.
what you wanted. And so I'm curious, Kim, how did you know? How did you have the information? Because a lot of women don't have the information. We see what we see on TV and movies, and we hear stories and we go, okay, well, I guess birth is hard. I guess birth is painful. I guess it's a struggle. I guess it's something to avoid and to back away from. Or I guess it's something that I'll try maybe to do a natural home birth, but when push comes to shove, pun intended, I'm maybe gonna just like kind of go the other route because I don't unconsciously I don't really think it's safe. So for me, one of the most important things is for a woman, if she's wanting to have the path that you had, is to really decide because it's not for everyone. And so you decided before. And what made you decide? What made you see that that could be a path for you?
You know what's interesting is all the way up until I did this life-changing play called Birth, I was like, I'm gonna do the epidural. I thought hospital birth was the way to go. My mom had always told me, she had a midwife and she was like, I fully like encourage you having a midwife whenever that happens for you. But she had a hospital birth with a midwife. Um, and she had a very positive experience too. So she already like informed that like you know, motherhood and birth can be a positive thing. I think a lot of people don't get that. Like their mothers have traumatic experiences, so they're already like predisposed to be like, I will have a traumatic experience. But I was like, let's do the epidural. That's just what I had seen. And like I would make fun with my friends like when we were in high school of, being like all of those like terrible like movie sounds that you hear of like women in like pain
Yes.
of just assuming that that's what it would be as opposed to this like primal animalistic powerful fucking push sound like this. It's so amazing, but we'll get there. I digress. So I initially thought, okay, if and when I ever become a mom, it'll be epidural. I don't want to feel a fucking thing.
Yep.
And it'll be in the hospital and it'll be like bada bing, bada boom, let's go.
Yep.
And then I ended up doing this play called Birth when I was in Bend, Oregon. And it's like the vagina monologues, black box theater of birth stories.
Amazing.
And it changed my life. It literally changed my life in the sense of the amount of education I got from that play, because you're basically hearing a handful of women's birth stories, real birth stories, And it goes from the cesarean to the VBAC, learning all of this terminology of, vaginal birth after cesarean. What is Pitocin? What are like all of these things that I had never heard of until I had done this play. And so it was like an insane amount of information. And these women are just explaining their birth stories. Um, and there was no judgment on it. It was like, I want a scheduled C-section because that works for my lifestyle. Or I, had a hospital birth and it went wrong because of all of the medication they were giving me. And so then I needed an emergency C-section. Or I had the home birth. Or on my second child, I had redemption by having an unmedicated home birth. Like it was just like all of these different stories. And through that, I met a really great friend called Elizabeth, and she invited me to her home birth later down the line. And
Wow.
it was so beautiful to have faked these births on stage because I wasn't a mother at this point, and to
Hmm.
hear these women go through like these labor sounds on stage, and then to be in person with one of my dear friends while she did just that. She had a home birth and she was trying to get to the bath. She was just a few steps away, but she was laboring and it was beautiful. And then she was like, I need to get in the bath. And as she was going to the bath, the baby just came out, and her other two children were just woken up, like just before that moment. And then they were all in the bed, the whole family together, eating fruit, just welcoming this baby in. And I was like, I want what she has. 100%. This is so, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. It was just so natural.
Yeah.
It was so calm. It was so, every moment happened as it should. And she had these surges and these sensations, but they were powerful and they weren't scary. And she was so beautifully held by her midwife and the doula and her husband, and my presence there. And then the kids coming in at the last minute to just welcome their sibling. And then that picture of them being in her bed, eating this beautiful bowl of fruit, just like moments after. I was like, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so then flash forward to a few years later, when I got pregnant, I was decided 100%. I was like, I want a home birth. And then it just happened to be COVID. Like we got pregnant
Mm.
before COVID, then COVID happened, and my son was born in November of 2020. And there was all these mandates of like women having to give birth with masks on, or your partner
Yeah.
wouldn't be allowed in the room. And I
Yeah.
was just
You're
even more
like, no,
professional.
thank you.
Like there's no alternative for me. This is the environment that I would love to create for myself. And I got it, and I'm so grateful for it. And I don't
Talk
know.
to me, Kim. Talk to me about choosing the first time and also the second time of your home births, choosing your team, choosing your set and your setting. We talk about set and setting with mushrooms, but it's like, what was your set and setting that you knew you wanted to have, that like certain people you wanted to be there, certain ways you wanted things to pan out for you each time, and
My
did those match up to what you had planned?
planning. My two births were different in the sense of I knew I wanted a water birth for both. Um, I had my mom there and Falk's dad there in the house. Um, and we thought that we would like set up like a little webcam thing for the family in Europe to be a part of it because of COVID and this whole thing. And right away when I got into like the throes of it, I was like, put the fucking camera away. Like I
Yeah.
just want to be like
Yes.
looked at like an animal. I was like,
Totally.
and it ended up just being Falk and I till the very like end. And I did have fast birth. So by the time that the midwife got there, the tub was not full. Like they were like filling pots of boiling water to try to fill this tub, and it ended up only being half full by the time I got in. But I got to just be very intimate with Falk, and that was lovely. It was just like us swaying with each other, us laughing with each other. No one else was in the room until like the midwife came, and she was checking me, and I was, now that I know, I was definitely like pushing at that point, and she was like, "Do you want me to check you or whatever?" Because we had wanted to be more hands off, and I said yes, because if this is what it's like for 18, 50 hours, whatever these other women go through, I was like, I get it. I was like, send me to the hospital, let's epidural this thing. I don't think I would have the endurance to do this for hours upon hours upon hours. And I had all of this empathy towards women that have these enormous labors, and I'm just like, no, I get it. Like, yes, yes, and like see what happens for you in those moments, and pivot as you need to. Like, no judgment on needing the medication later down the, it's a lot,
Yeah.
if it goes on forever and ever, and thankfully it didn't for me. Like, it was fast. It was like my last little moments, and she was like, "You're 10 centimeters." I was like, "Thank God, let's go." And so we got in the tub, and like 2 pushes later he was there. Now for my daughter's birth, it was in this room. So we had a tub, which here in Wallowa County, it's a horse trough, which I fucking love.
Wow.
On brand. With like the plastic liner and the whole thing.
Yes, yes.
I had, like my little affirmations set up at my baby shower. My girlfriends wrote out like these beautiful, positive um, affirmations and encouragements that I had around me. I had the candles lit. I also had that the first time around with Louise Hay, like her affirmation deck. Uh,
Okay.
just like a nice, like moody candle music. The playlist was so important, and that was Falk's job for both births, and he nailed it with just like humor of like, smush it, like the push it real good songs, to like Enya, to Celine Dion, to Eminem, of like, you only got one shot type of music. It was a good playlist, really sets the mood. And so for this birth, I didn't get to use the midwife that I did in Bend because she was so far, but there's this really cool, she's really cool, this really cool midwife called Nora Hawkins here, and she's like a cowgirl, and her grandmother was a midwife back in the day, and like went to births on horseback, and would like trade farm equipment for birth.
Wow.
Just comes from this line of awesome women. And so she was my one and only choice here, but that was lucky in its own sense. Um,
So, question for you, because I know how traditional thinking goes. You got the green light from a team that was certified to say, yes, you're safe to birth at home, right? Like it was like you did some checkups, you had some protocols that you were following to kind of feel safe to do this, or no, you were just like, did you do any of that any prior to either of the home births?
I mean, I think they were just checking on the baby, and as long as we were good, it was good. Like,
Yeah,
it was a geriatric pregnancy this time.
which is laughable
At
because
the ripe age of 37, but
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I was 33 or 2 with my first one. Um, and before I met Nora, the medical system here in Wallowa County has been incredible, just so wonderful. And I was considering possibly having a hospital birth because we were still in the bus. We didn't have housing. We were like, where's this little baby gonna hatch? We had no idea where a home birth would be.
Yeah.
And so I had met with a doctor here, Emily Knudsen, and she was so lovely. And just the entire staff was very like, whatever you need. Like, we're not gonna like push certain protocols on you. There's a tub here that you can labor in. but you can't give birth in. And so that was
Oh,
actually the deciding factor. Was I talked to some other women in town, and most of the women here have their babies with Nora. Um,
okay.
or if they needed to, the hospital here has been really positive for them. So it was cool to even mentally go, oh, I could still have a very positive hospital birth here. It's not like in a city is what I assumed, where these things have to go faster and
Mm,
people might feel more pressured to get the baby out faster because there's 50 other women waiting on the same day. It's a very small
good
community,
point.
and I think that's about the small community here. Like they're like, hey, we're gonna see you at Safeway in like 6 weeks. Like we want you to have like you're replenishing the village here. Let's take care of the mothers and the babies, and it's
Yeah, as it should be.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, it's so incredible. So it's interesting to hear your perspectives of I was so open to, like initially before you had your first, you were like, I'm gonna have kind of the quotes traditional American birth. And then you had this incredible, chilling, awe-inspiring awakening through the play of being in that play birth, which is just such a spectacular example of art informing our lives. And then you got to see, you had the blessing of seeing a friend of yours have this beautiful, natural, organic experience. And you were like, yes, please, I'll have that. And so many people don't have that opportunity. So I just want to say, like, if people don't have that opportunity to see their friend's natural home birth, there are so many, I don't know if you watched any of these, Kim, but so many videos on YouTube of beautiful, natural, lovely home births that are very similar to what Kim's describing. Did you watch any of those to prepare?
Did and I've had one of my girlfriends, Chantal from America's Next Top Model. I remember she posted her birth video years ago, and it was just like this, like it felt so like quiet and calm, and she just like beautifully like labored her baby out. And I was like, I would love to try that with my second one, because my first one was awesome, but I was so excited to meet him that I just like blew him out. I was like, we call him like Leo Torpedo. It was like it was great, and it was like the energy of that night, and I was like, I don't want to wait another second. Like I'm just so ready to have you here. So my intention for this one was like, I would love for it to be just like this quiet, calm, just like put these babies out kind of moment. That also, and so in terms of expectation and reality, this was also another wonderful, powerful birth. I had pelvic floor therapy this time before this baby.
Okay.
I'm super grateful for. Shout out to Bailey, another incredible service provided in this town just to get me strengthened. I didn't have any of that before my son or after my son. And so I wanted to just make sure that things were solid going into a second birth, and that I didn't want to tear. I had like a
Yes, yes.
second degree tear with my first one because I just blew him out. And so she like really worked on my scar and just like pelvic floor strength, and uh God, I felt so good in this birth, but I thought that I would have more control of slowing it down. But basically within 45 minutes of my birth team getting here, like my active labor started at 2, she was born at 4:26. It was very fast and wonderful, thank God. Like that's what I'm saying. Like these women that have to deal with the endurance of that level of sensations is I don't know what that is like. So props to you guys for handling that. I'm just grateful for an efficient, speedy birth. But
Well, what I think is interesting is the level of release and letting go and trust that Kim you have of your body. And I'm curious, is that innate to you? Is it a particular mindset that you think helped inform that trust? I know you've had experiences with different, natural, what do you want to call it? Like ayahuasca mushroom like experiences where you've learned, where we learn, our system learns and retrains itself, like how to actually surrender. There's so many. Is it okay I outed you about that?
Right.
Okay. There's so much I think of birthing is actually learning surrender, which a lot of us don't actually understand physically how to do that. And so
Yeah.
that's, I think, why it takes so long for some people. What do you attribute that surrender to?
I think you're right. The experience with my first ayahuasca trip I did while I was pregnant, and I didn't know that I was pregnant yet. I was really, really early pregnant. The first time I did ayahuasca, and I actually met the fetus during my trip, and I was like, I think I'm pregnant.
Wow.
I was just
Wow.
like, whoa. And my guru was like, it's okay, women do this in the Amazon all the time. You should be fine. And we're all fine. But I had this like removed, perspective of witnessing the sensations of, Aya, and whoever's gone through that can maybe relate to this, of just like your vessel, you're removed from it in a sense, and you're just like, oh my God, I'm just witnessing these feelings. They are not me. So going into birth, that was an incredible reminder and perspective of like, just witness. And for me, my experience was very much that I had nothing to fucking do with it. My body
Mm,
was going through the motions. Like my body was pushing. I was not pushing.
right.
Everything was happening, in my head. It's a mental game is the biggest advice that I give my girlfriends that want to have advice for me. It's just like, just witness the experience. It's a mental game more than like a physical endurance game of open, release your jaw, that it releases your pelvis. Every contraction or expansion is the only one you'll ever feel of that level, and then it's gone forever.
Mm, mm, mm.
And this was really cool this time around because I was like playing with my contraction calculator trying to see like when they were happening, and it's only 1 minute. Like the
Right.
intensity is only ever 1 minute. And you're just like looking at it and you're like, I can fucking do that. I can do that. You see the countdown. You're like, okay. And then it goes away. It is like a calm lake. You are so chill. You catch your breath. You do whatever. You eat something. You laugh, whatever it is. And then it comes back and you're like, it's 1 minute. It's not forever. It's so temporary. And every expansion, contraction brings you closer to your baby. It's like
Yes, yes, yes.
ever.
Yeah, so the way, what I hear is like the way, two things. One, so brilliant what you're talking about is like it is the uncomfortability, the pain, if you want to call it that, is 1 minute. So, like in life, if we can apply that to life, which I think you do that already, Kim, is why you're in general such a happy-go-lucky person, is because you're applying this wisdom. You're like, oh, it might be uncomfortable. I can witness it. It's not me. I don't have to become it. So, there's that aspect of we call it like 20 seconds of courage. And so do the thing. I have 20 seconds of courage and then it's over. Just in life. And then the other aspect that you're talking about is just the way you're relating. It's like, this is my one moment to feel this one contraction, and I'll never get to feel this one contraction again. The way you're relating to it is every contraction is bringing me this much closer to my baby. I think that is like so key, is the way you related to it. And then
Mm.
also I want to bring in, the video that you guys posted on Instagram and that you sent me when you were in labor, or that Falk sent me when you were in labor, of you, one of you sent me, that you were like dancing and like I only got to one shot, Eminem's like, and you're moving your body and you're dancing and you're just enjoying the heck out of it.
Right,
You know,
you're about to have your baby. It's so exciting. It's so exciting. And this is something that I will have to work with, because I do get really sad and really mad for women that don't get to have like this ultimate beautiful experience. Like it's upsetting to me. So I know that I have to like figure out what that's triggering, within me because I'm just like, I just want to like spread this to everybody. Like I want you to have this. And
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
it really boils my blood when
Well, people don't necessarily know that they need the education, first of all. They don't know that there's another way, potentially. And then you have to be willing to open your mind to that education, right? So, the business of being born, for example.
like you know what I mean? Like I've had so many girlfriends that have to have cesareans at the last second or
Yes, yes.
and it's disappointing to me. And I'm gonna check in with a girlfriend today who just had that and I want to make sure that like I'm like, are you okay? Like, am I taking on this disappointment for you? Because the conversations that we'd had, there was a curiosity. She was at my birth
Yes.
and she was going to have a cesarean because the hospital here does not do VBACs. And so that
Uh-huh. Okay.
only option was to go and have a second cesarean or have a home birth. But that was all very new to her. And I was the first kind of experience that she had seen that in. And we're like 2 months apart. So maybe it was a little too last minute for her to
Sure.
there. And so I had the feeling that there was this like, dang, I wish I could have what you have, but I can't.
Yes.
And I'm gonna check in with her today just to see how she's feeling and make sure that I'm not like projecting my own like
Yeah, I mean,
whatever.
I think it really comes down to people's expectations of themselves and what they think they're capable of and what they're comfortable with and what feels safe, right? Because
Yeah,
if you don't do your research and you don't feel safe and you don't have a team that's supportive or you have people telling you that it's not going to be safe for XYZ reasons. Now, sometimes that's legit
yeah,
for sure. And
yeah.
sometimes it's not. And I think you really have to it's a process of trusting ourselves, right?
I did
Like,
I will
right?
a girlfriend's another local girlfriend here, her birth story from what I'd heard on her first birth, and she's very spiritual and was very open to having a home birth and labored for a very long time and then ended up needing to get a cesarean.
Right. But what you just said is she was open to it.
Well,
And
so this was an interesting perspective that she told me was she was like her mantra was I trust my body, I trust my body, I trust my body. And what happened was she told me this of but I didn't trust my body to tell me that it wasn't working. Like I
yeah,
was forcing that I was going to have a home birth period. And
yeah,
she in retrospect like it was a very traumatic birth for her in the sense of like she didn't get what she wanted and then it like spiraled into this like emergency C-section. But we were talking about it after of she's like how funny that my mantra was I trust my body, but then I actually wasn't trusting my body that it was telling me that I need more help, like the external help of a cesarean. There's also that element of it of you can try to plan as much as you can. I was nervous. I had a bit of nerves in my system of being like, everyone was like, this won't be like your first birth. This is a totally different child. It will be a completely different experience. I was like, what if I have a cesarean? What
mm,
happens if something happens and I have to
mm.
go get an emergency cesarean like so many of my girlfriends have to have?
Yes, yes, yes.
And how much do I want to like lean into that and prep for that, or how much do I just go,
Mm.
that's not for me, or whatever it was. So the fact that my birth ended up the way that it did, I'm tremendously grateful that my body did it, that I felt safe. Feeling safe is 1,000% it.
Right.
Period.
Yeah, and so what does that preparation mean for each person? It's so personal, it's so individual, and it might not be what you want. Maybe you feel safe in a hospital.
Totally.
That's for me, that's not my safe place, is the hospital.
Same.
Right? So, and it's like, and then the education just furthered my feelings of actually, I feel safer with a really, really, really smart, good team with me and like surround myself with the right people. And so I think that everyone, because when I have had friends who are like, I'm open to to the natural birth, or I'm open to a water birth, or I'm open to a home birth, and it's like, to me, it's like, no, you can't just be open to it if that's what you want. You have to decide this is happening. That's from my viewpoint. It's like, this is happening this way. Now, of course, you have to be, I would say you have to be open to it not getting to be a home birth,
Right. Right. Yeah.
right? That's always a possibility that it doesn't happen as a home birth, of course.
It's life. It literally is life, and it's life. It's like you can manifest or project the experience that you're hoping to have, and then you have to be open to, when you make plans, God laughs in your face kind of thing,
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, and actually that brings me to Kim, the way that you've trusted your journey when you left Bend. From the last time I interviewed you, you left Bend and you just trusted. Like, you had these all these little experiences where the bus kept breaking down and then you'd like pray and then something would just show up. And I feel like that's so similar to your birth experiences. I'm just curious if you want to share anything about that whole cross-country experience.
my spirituality has been a very interesting ride for the last few years. Um, Definitely was like an atheist growing up, agnostic, just being
Hmm.
like, we're all ants on a rock. It doesn't mean anything. To
Yeah.
then getting these glimpses of like miracles and being like, that's a little bit too coincidental, or whoa, there is a bigger thing like at play here. And then just talking with my friends who are Christian and who are more spiritual, and it's all the same. I hope I don't offend anyone. To me, I understand it at that it's all like one.
Hmm.
There's different veins to get to that. Um, and I try to work on my connection to God and spirit every day. I don't get to it every day, but when these big life changes happen, and they were happening a lot and fast, I'm starting to see a theme here.
Just like your birth.
Yeah, exactly. It's all just very efficient and effective and intense. Um, to just like let go and let God is like such a great saying, because it really is that of, listen, I have dark days. I don't have them as much as I used to, and they happen faster
Mm,
through the work and the medicine and the lessons learned. And with age, like things aren't as dramatic as they used to be, like when you were a teenager or in your 20s and you're just like, oh my God, this is gonna last forever. It's the contraction, it's the expansion, it's that oof, oh, this is so uncomfortable. And then it lightens up, and then you're like, oh, I this is familiar. Okay, I know that there's an end to this. How long is it going to be? Hopefully a minute. You know,
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
just trying to re-ground myself with looking at the details around me has really helped me like get out of my head. Just like the details in the room of being like, what is this crown molding? How many branches does this tree have? Or what does this candle smell like? These like grounding things for me is
Hmm.
like, because I will like, most of my life tends to be blurry because it's going so fast.
Mm,
Or it's just like all like happening, and it's like, and if I can just go, what is happening? I'm talking to Siri. You know,
mm,
I'm trying not to think about like who's going to hear this and what are they going to think, and
mm.
what pictures are going to get posted. Should I get back on social media? Like all of these like thoughts that go so fast in my head of just going, hey, it's quiet here. This is nice, and this is when you can hear God or see what He's doing, instead of just always assuming that you have the control to know what the next step is.
Yeah.
Because giving up the idea of stability and control was a big one for me through COVID, because it all disappeared.
Hmm.
Housing, friends,
Hmm.
the idea, career, all of it. It all reformed into its own beautiful thing. But the idea of how I thought it was gonna go didn't.
Yeah.
I never thought that I would end up in Enterprise, Oregon. Like the
Right. Like what?
idea of snow-capped mountains. How did I get this house? We were in a bus. Like the friends that I've made here, the baby that I produced here. It's just this, like all of it is just really nice.
Oh my gosh. You're bringing me to tears with the way that you're seeing life and your perspective. And you know what's cool is that I've interviewed a lot of spiritual people and I've talked to a lot of spiritual people my whole life. And it can be very elitist, the way
Mm,
that people who regard themselves as spiritual talk to each other, think of themselves, interact, blah, 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 right? And you're literally practicing what everyone is hoping, trying to practice that says they're spiritual, but you're not acting like a quotes spiritual person. You're
mm,
just being it.
mm.
You're just experiencing life in present moment and surrendering and witnessing and doing all the practices that we spend some of us tons of money to like learn how to do, and you're just doing it. And I think it's incredible.
Thank you. Well, but I listen to your podcast, Siri. I listen to the people that you interview. Like I'm in that world. I don't know that I'm like the shiniest poster child for it. Do you know what I mean? It's just like I'm taking these little nuggets of information along the way and going, well, that worked. That actually worked better than I thought it would. You know, like these little things tend to become tools in your toolbox, blah blah blah. And you just use them and then you forget and then you have a breakdown and then someone in our group will go, oh hey, do you want to breathe? Do you want to just remember that this is a contraction expansion? Do you want to maybe just go take like a hot bath and like feel your body? Do you want to go cry? Just
Yeah.
also just feel the shit.
Yeah.
One of the biggest realizations that has like really helped me in my life was I was really sick like a year and a half ago or whatever over Christmas and like got into like a really shitty depression. Like my whole system was
Oh,
just
when you were in Germany.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
It was dark, it was bad, and we were like, we don't know what to do. Where are we going? Like we were homeless slash homeful in a lot of ways. And I just had like this realization of being like, I think the human experience is to
Right.
feel good and to feel really bad and to feel it all. Like I feel like that's what you're meant to experience on this plane. And
Yeah.
so if you're feeling like shit, good job. You're nailing life. Like you're being here to feel this bad. You're like, oh God, oh ouch. And then when you feel really good, that's awesome, but that's the other side of it. Like you also
Yes.
need to know what it feels like to feel fucking bad
Yes.
because that's
Yes.
the part of feeling alive. So
Yeah.
I applaud you. If you feel like shit right now and you're listening, you're doing it. You're crushing the game. Like well done, you know? Just
Yes.
respect that.
It's yes. I remember you commenting on something when I said, you know, our job is to feel good, and you said our job is to feel. And I thought a lot about that because you're right. And I think it's both like I completely agree with you that we have to plumb the depths. We have to feel it in order to heal it. We have to give ourselves permission to go all the way and also to appreciate, like you were appreciating in your birth, you were appreciating the pain. You were appreciating it.
Siri, it's like I'm so happy to have this conversation with you because I'm also getting realizations of just it goes back to feeling safe.
Yeah.
Like you can feel safe to feel that dark, that bad, and have someone around you that's like, you're do it, feel it, you're okay. You're like you're safe to feel this. You can tell me that you don't want to live anymore and life sucks and all of like the most terrible, disgusting things, and to go, I'm not going to let that happen to you. but
Mm.
you're free to like feel that bad. And I won't let you take it that far. It's just like birth. It's like these like active labor pains and active like death throes
Mm.
are very coincidental, like they
Yeah,
with each
they
other.
coincide with each other. Yeah, for sure. Let's make up a new word is coincidental because that's perfect wisdom. And I like to say that the energy of death is the same as the energy of birth. It really is.
Like just talking to you about this now, I'm like, it's the same. And if you can feel safe, you can birth through that experience, whether it's a death, whatever the fuck is dying and decaying off of your system in that moment.
Yeah.
I mean, the fascinating part that there's like death doulas in the world right now, which I think is amazing. I'm like, yes,
Yes,
like you will die. Don't you want someone to kind of help you through that transition?
for sure. Yeah, and I've been meaning to interview a death doula, and I know some of them, and I think it's incredible. I got to kind of death doula my grandfather, and that's why I say it's very similar energy to birth doulaing,
So
because, right, it's all in the surrender.
that's
It's
it.
all
And
in the
people can be
surrender.
so afraid of death. People can be so afraid of birth. Like that's the only guarantees in life is like
That's
you
right.
live and you die. And if you can, shepherd this life so consciously, why why wouldn't you want to then consciously like shepherd yourself out
Mhm.
of this life? You know what I mean? I
Oh my
hope,
God, that's so beautiful, Kim. So
listen,
beautiful.
we'll see how the plan goes, right? Of my death. Let me just put it out there. But I hope it's conscious, whether even if it's like in a terrible way. Ugh, I hope not. But also like that in my mind, in those moments, I just go, oh, okay.
Did you ever have a near-death experience?
No, thankfully.
Okay, I just want to tell you I had one
Yeah,
and the car was turning and I remember as we're turning everything went into slow motion
right,
and I remember thinking, "Oh, this is it. Okay.
right.
All right. This is it."
Yeah.
And I feel like that's how you're going to be.
I've had moments on planes where I'm like, uh, or okay, like this is shaking a lot, or it doesn't feel good, and I go, "What the fuck am I gonna do?" Do you know what I mean? Like this surrender of,
Yeah.
okay, that's how I'm going out, and
And
just
that
getting peaceful with myself of going, I'm pretty sure everyone that I love knows that, and I'll try better next time, even though I hope to God I do not come back. I'm done with this plane. I want to like figure it out, learn the lessons, and move on to some other planet.
that's fascinating. Okay, that's a whole separate podcast conversation for sure. I'm trying to think if there's anything else about the process. Is there anything you want to share about Swap Me Baby and birthing on camera, what that was like for you versus birthing in real life?
Well, I birthed on camera like a month before I birthed for real. And I remember having some like passionate conversations with the director and the producer and the writer because they wanted it to be this typical funny birth, and it's
Hmm.
all you ever see in these movies. And
It
I was
drives
like,
me crazy.
that's insane because the whole thing is exposure. If people can see women having beautiful, powerful, quiet or not quiet births instead of these like freaked out like "Ah!" births, then maybe they would be programmed to be like, oh hey, that's also possible. And so
Yeah.
I was like, you guys, I don't want to do this. This is such an important platform of showing a different kind of birth.
Yes.
Please do
Yes.
something different, even with the water breaking, even with the contractions. And like I didn't know what those would actually feel like. Um, but I think I did a pretty good job.
Yeah. Yeah, you did.
Oh, that was pretty on par. Um, but they really were like, it serves the story in this way to have at least like, oh, scream, you know? And I was like, that's fine, but I also wanted to have those moments of, I'm a fucking warrior, you know, like I
Yes, yes.
can do this. Because I was with this birth, I cannot wait to see the video. One of my girlfriends took pictures and filmed this birth, which we didn't have the first time, COVID, blah, blah, blah. And so I haven't seen the video yet, but
Oh,
I was
wow.
I was so in the moment of basically uh my active labor, like it was happening. Like it was like 1 minute every 3 minutes. And it was coming on pretty fast. My midwife checked my vitals on the bed, and I was so uncomfortable being on my back that I was like, I need to get on all fours. So like
Yes.
done, I was like, I just need to get on all fours, and I got on the bed, and my first push happened. And then like these like intense sounds just like come out of your body. Like it feels like your whole brain is like coming out of your asshole.
Yes, yes, yes.
Not about birth, but it is an incredible sensation. And my water broke on the bed. Poof. And that did not happen with my first birth. Like it was like I felt the pop at 3 a.m. and it trickled. But this was like the whole fucking thing came out on the bed, and I was like, I'm taking a shit. I'm taking a shit. Yeah, Falk
Oh,
very beautifully came in, picked it up, threw it away, and the girls came in and they're like, "See anything?" And I was like, well, I definitely took a shit or there's a baby on the bed, but it's like so things are coming out of my body. And so
yeah.
they're like helping me take my underwear off. And I knew that the next contraction was gonna, or the push was gonna come pretty soon. And I was like, I need to get in the tub. And it was just across the hall. And so like I waddled to this room, got in the tub and was like, for like 3 seconds. And then the next push happened. And when I got into the tub, I put my fingers in my vagina just to see if I could feel her, because I did that with my son where they were like, you can feel him. Do you want to feel him? And that was
Wow.
stirring to be like, oh my God, he's there, right?
Wow, that's
It's not
amazing.
still way up here in my throat. Like it's close.
Yeah.
So like I put my fingers in, I felt her, and I was like, oh, okay, good, good. And so I started talking to her. I was like, all right, baby girl. All right, girl, let's go. Let's go. Let's do this. And I just started like hyping her up. And
Yeah.
the next push came and she started crowning. I was like, she's crowning, she's crowning. And I was like, whoa, slow down. Like, slow down, bitch. But I was like, it was going so fast, and I was hoping that I could like control the like, you know, like a quiet little labor. And I was just like, oh, like her head's up. And then like she was chilling there underwater for like a minute, and then the next push, and she was out. Like it was just like boom, but like just that like talking to yourself, all right, let's go, girl. I'm connected. We're talking. It's me and you. There's
Yeah,
no one else in this room right now. Let's go. Let's go. It's like she's
that's right.
let's go. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think that is a really important point that you're making, which is you were talking to your body, you were talking to the baby, and we don't get taught that either.
right, right.
And I think that's so important. Right?
Yeah.
To for women who are wanting to get pregnant to start to talk to the spirit of the baby before they get pregnant, start to write letters to the baby, start to create that relationship. And then simultaneously, we have the opportunity to continue to build this trust and this relationship and this communication with our body of like, yes, body, thank you, body. Yes, baby, you got this baby.
Can
Right?
I
Like both of those things. Yeah.
I had some guilt during this pregnancy because I wasn't as connected as I was with Leo. Like
Okay.
I was talking to him and I was always on the belly and this and that. And this one, it's like you have a toddler, your life is going. So I'm
Yes, yes, yes.
like consciously connecting as much with her. And I had this wonderful energy worker that worked with me here, and she was just like she gave me so much relief of being like, this is a different experience. She knows you, She's got you. You guys are connected. It doesn't have to look the way it did with your first. It won't.
Yes.
Like, release that pressure of feeling like it has to be letters or belly rubs or whatever it is. It's like you check. I would go to bed, and that's was like my little check-in with her every night. It was just like, hey girl, because she would like move a lot like in that moment, and then she would go to sleep and I would go to sleep. But it was like a little check-in. It wasn't so like, you know,
Well, I mean, you're literally growing her eyeball. Like it's
yeah,
there's a communication
right.
that was happening without you needing to do anything.
But it felt way more hands off this time than it did with Leo. And I did feel guilty about that, of being like, what is that? Like, what is this? Like, I'm not feeling as connected. But it's
Hmm.
like I'm a different person than I was 4 years
Yes.
ago. You know what I mean? It's just like,
Yeah, and you like you said, you have a kid. I mean, I remember the second time being like, I didn't walk my 5 miles, which my midwife was like, you want to do this home birth? You are going to walk 5 miles every day until you birth that baby, or else you're not going to have the stamina to do it. And that was a non-negotiable, was walking 5 miles. And it didn't have to be in one go. I split it up throughout the
every
day,
day.
every day, throughout the day.
Yeah.
But that was my like endurance kind of test, was needing to do that. And where am I going with this story? Kim, remind me what we're talking about.
Of the connection and how the pregnancies are different and connecting
Oh, got it. Yes, thank you.
pregnancies.
The pregnancies are different because the second time I'm chasing around Phoenix and I'm like, I'm not doing 5 miles. Sorry. Like that, this is not happening.
It's in your living room.
Like, yeah, it's just, there's no way. I'm like, sorry, we can't do that this time.
Yeah.
Too tired. I'm too tired.
It's real. It's real. It's yeah. So just that permission to be like, everything about this will be different.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and it,
again, and again, that's such a life lesson.
yeah.
And this is why I think you and I are so passionate, because we've had these experiences and we
Mm,
were blessed to have them.
mm,
We understand what it means to rebirth yourself, to literally become a different person through the process of the birthing. And so, if you have the opportunity,
mhm,
if your doctors say, yes, you're safe to do this,
mm.
oh my God, please give, if you have the inkling, please give yourself the opportunity, because the experience of becoming a mother. Now, it's not to say other people who, don't get to do natural home birthing don't become mothers. We all become mothers.
Mm.
But there's something very primally, like,
When those
incredibly miraculous about the natural process that we're built for. We're built for,
yeah, yeah,
right? This is literally what we're made of for.
yeah, yeah,
It is only recently that this became an industry in the hospitals, that this became this business.
yeah.
This is what we're built for.
Yeah.
We're made to
And
birth.
there's not much that makes me mad. But this particular subject, God, it fucking boils my blood. When women want an experience and it doesn't go their way because of
Maybe misinformation.
really,
Sorry, you
oh,
cut out for a second.
I cut out.
Yeah, what were you
Oh,
saying?
I was just grumbling. It just, yeah, it just that it's the the disappointment that I am taking on for my girlfriends, and I will work on that. Is yeah, one of the things that boils my blood when women that feel like they are capable or teeter on that because of all of this other information. As much as you would say to look at these beautiful home births, which I totally agree,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much on the other side of that on the internet of just like everything that could go wrong. And so it really is like
Right.
going into the perfect radio station of being like, la, 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 la. I needed to.
Yes.
When I
Yes.
was pregnant the first time, every woman I met would come and tell me the most horrific birth experiences that they,
Right.
and I was
Right.
like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Why? And I just had to be like, brush it off my shoulder. But I'm just like, it's so interesting that,
And they do it while you're pregnant too.
wow, you're pregnant.
And you're
They're like,
like,
this is how
maybe
it ended
that
terribly for me. And you're like,
maybe don't share right now.
yeah, yeah. And then having, we talked about this via text. If you want to talk about this now, I don't know how much time you have left on your
I'm good. I'm good.
okay, of just also kind of survivor's guilt in a way of not wanting to share your positive pregnancy
Yep.
and birth because people are like, well, fuck you. I didn't get that. And you're
Yep.
like, so we want to tell the world about what's possible, but also maybe they don't want to hear it, and maybe I should just keep this to myself and be grateful. And if someone's gonna ask, then they'll ask, but it's like a tricky line because
Yes.
most of my girlfriends have had not the outcomes that they were hoping to have.
Yeah. And but that is why I want to amplify your story, because why should we hide our successes in life? That's bullshit. To make other people feel less uncomfortable. Like, I get that you'd have to read the room.
Yeah.
And if people have had traumatic experiences, for sure, I don't quotes brag about my experiences. And also, it's people's choice if they want to click on this interview and learn about water home birth. And like, if you're curious about it, here's the other thing. Kate Northrup, who I listened to her podcast, she wanted to have natural, she didn't. And then she had a friend recently who had this gorgeous experience. She shared her gorgeous experience, and Kate was like, you know what? And this is something I can see you doing, Kim. She was like, I am going to enjoy that woman's beautiful birth experience as if it's my own, because I can rewrite
Mm.
my own experience, my own story. And she experienced that woman's story as if it was her own. She took it on like the collective success of that experience. And I'm not saying that everyone has that kind of ability to do that. Like, that's not easy to do, but Kate managed to do that. And I think, like, if there's a version where you could try on understanding that we're all one, like you said, when you have those mushroom or psilocybin, like ayahuasca experiences or spiritual experiences or God experiences, where you understand that we're all one, then you can actually have that relationship with another woman's success.
Or not. Like I'm hearing it as let me really feel into my girlfriend's experiences. And maybe that is like the disappointment and the anger that I'm feeling is what they might be feeling, and to fucking feel that for them.
Sure.
And not feel like, okay, now I have to do something about it, but just to acknowledge that that was a
Yeah.
disappointment or shameful for them in a way that they're like, damn it, I didn't get to do it. So what does that mean about me? And to then like lean into my experience and go, well, thank God it's possible. Like we're not all getting butchered and, you know, not what we want. Like I'm grateful that I'm on that side of the spectrum for the collective, whatever. And to take the attitude out of it is what I need to work on, because there is a guilt there for me to be able to say that. And
Well,
I
I think
like,
but the guilt comes from, like, what you're saying is from the judgment of, but you didn't get to do this. And then what I'm hearing is like, but then there's also the part that you're aware of, which is like, I can also trust that that was that, like, your whatever hell is, or not hell, or medium like, whatever it is like, that's your gift, that's your soil, your fertilizer for your growth, like whatever that journey was for her, she gets the gift of the medicine of that,
yes,
right?
yes, 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 yes.
And we
100%.
can't like take people's journey and story away from them.
No. No, you're totally right, Siri. And I know that in moments and I forget it when like the passion flares, but it's like all of the if you have this belief, it's like all of these things happen to teach you a lesson, hopefully. It's like so what is happening for you and around you that you can learn from and
And like so much of it, like you said, is out of our control. Our disposition, the way that we've been raised, the conditioning, like a lot of it, we're up against a lot sometimes. And to not be hard on ourselves when even the woman in the movie The Business of Being Born didn't have the natural home birth in the movie,
Mm,
and not everyone wants that.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
maybe they think they do, but maybe they don't. And like it's just so, it's like life. Like we can never understand why certain things unfold the way they do. It's just like a
Yeah,
mystery.
totally. I think the biggest thing is like the choice thing. It's like choose the birth that you're hoping to have, cesarean, hospital, home birth. Um, and I hope you get out of it what you're supposed to. I don't know, it sounds so terrible, but you know what I mean? Is it
No,
terrible? Because
I,
I don't know, I just feel like someone's gonna hear this and go like, fuck you, Kim, you don't know what you're talking about, blah 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 blah. This happened to me.
right. Well, and then so and and I'm right there with you because I'm on this wavelength with you and I'm going, yeah, but but yeah, if someone's like, fuck you, you don't understand, I had no choice and I wanted that, but I couldn't, or why would you want that, or whatever their perspective is, great, good. I hope that you trigger people.
That
And
I
then
tried.
and then I trigger people and that they get to learn something
Yeah.
from that,
Well,
right?
that's the thing is I hope that we like in this conversation with you and me, which is the only thing that really matters right now, right? Because it's like this is the only moment that exists right now, is I hope that we're learning something from each other, and I feel like I'm trying to accept other people's experiences and I'm not quite sure what to do with them yet, or if there's anything that needs to be done to like help.
Yeah. Well, I think you sharing your story in the right places, in the right timing,
Mhm,
and the way you stood for with Swap Me Baby, the way you stood for what you wanted
mhm,
to show. First of all, that just in and of itself, showing a different kind of birth in a movie that you can watch on Netflix. Can you watch? Where do you watch
no,
it?
Amazon.
To Amazon?
Yeah.
Tubi? I think I saw it on Tubi.
Like iTunes, it's the other platforms.
So go find it, Swap Me Baby. You can Google, how do I watch Swap Me Baby? And go find it and watch it because you'll see an example of a birth that you never see in a movie. And that right there is enough, just that. But then the fact that in real life, you've had these experiences where you tell a different story for women is so important because even if you haven't gotten to have the kind of experience that Kim's gotten to have, it's beautiful because we can still show this example for future generations because we can unlearn the information that has come through, that there's a bigger picture and the power of our mind and the power of a woman and the power of the way that we can relate to pain. Men don't get to have that.
No.
We get to enjoy that. It's incredible.
Really, I can I just there's one very important detail on my
Yeah.
birth that I haven't shared yet, which I said the first one was like very intimate, very just me and Falk. And this second one, as it evolved, as my birth team came together, it was gonna be Nora, which was my midwife, and then a girlfriend that I met along the way, who is a doula, was my doula. She's one of my best friends here, Marge. And then Landra, who's also an incredible friend here, was also there as an assistant. And my mother-in-law, who did not get to be at the first birth because of COVID, was there. And so there was like, and my girlfriend Maria, who was doing the pictures, it was this awesome girl fucking power to bring in my daughter. And that jazzed me so much. Like, I thought that the birth would go a little longer because we were gonna like chant and dance and do all this stuff, and it just happened so fast. But literally, the moment the last girl came through the door, she was here in 45 minutes. Like, I was like, my people are here. We're done. Let's go. Like, it was just the
Just
most,
just like death, when people hang on and they wait for that final person and then they let go.
yeah. I felt held like universally. Like you were there chanting for me. I had girlfriends praying for me. I had my women in the room. I had my fucking husband and I had my baby. And we were just like, yeah, it was epic. It was fucking great.
Yeah, and I think that when you hear yourself and when we hear you, it's like, oh my God, this is the opportunity of a lifetime.
Mm, mm, mm.
Like better than any movie you'll ever make is what you accomplished.
Thank you. My
It's
my son,
wonderful.
like 15 seconds after she came out, and then we all went to the bed and had a fruit plate, and I was like, check. We did it! I did it! It was like years in the making. It was fucking amazing. Perfect.
Master manifester.
Thank you. Oh, and Maya. Sorry, Maya, the dog. She was there too. She was like, I'm female power. She's at the
Yeah.
door.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's a whole other thing. Like the dogs and the way that they can watch. Uh, Our dog Charlie watched both of our boys being born,
Yeah.
and then she like felt like their mother and she was like putting blankets on them with her nose when they would cry. Like it's incredible. Just,
Let's see. Maya's
ugh.
not that life, but she's a very tolerant big sister.
Well, Kim, I just think you're absolutely incredible on every level. You're really a unique individual in many, many ways. And I appreciate the light, the love, the honesty, the authenticity, the beauty that you put in the world, the creativity that you put in the world, the example that you show. Your devotion to your kids is like unparalleled, really, truly. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh. Um, and it's a whole other podcast episode to talk about how you're such a devoted mom and you are still making films. Like that's crazy to me. But we'll have to do this again another time. I love you so much. Thank you for sharing your story. And it is vulnerable to share your joy in the way that you shared it. So thank you.
Sorry, my phone just activated because I said Siri. How many
So
times? Thank you for being an important part of this story. And thank you for giving me a space to share it.
it was an honor. It was an absolute honor to be up chanting for you. It was so special.
That's so cool. Like I don't know what that looks like, but I have an image of it and I'm just like, I just want you to be like, what is a chant? What is a chant, Siri? Tell me.
Oh, the Namyo Renge Kyo. Yeah, sitting in front of the Gohanzen with the candles lit, the incense, in my bathrobe, and just being like Namyo Renge Kyo, Namyo Renge Kyo, Namyo Renge Kyo.
Middle of the
Like,
night, sweet thing.
yeah, yeah. But it was a pleasure and an honor to do it, and I'm glad that you felt supported. So, guys listening, gals listening, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for coming on the ride. Definitely reach out to me if you have anything you want to share about what you did not agree with, what you agreed with, what you loved, what you didn't like, what resonated for you, what triggered you. Anything you want to share with me, please feel free to share. I'd love to have a dialogue with you. And thank you, Kim, again for your honesty and the vulnerability and the courage that it takes to share your story, knowing that your story is
Right.
not the norm. And And guys, if you have not yet seen any of Kim's films, please go onto IMDb. You can get a list of all of her films. I'll put a link to your IMDb in the show notes if you want me to do that. Is that cool?
Great.
Okay. And
Yeah.
here's the baby.
I could feel my boobies getting spicy,
Oh,
so
she's
she must.
sleeping.
Oh, good girl.
I got it.
All right, guys. Love you so much and see you next time.
Thanks, Siri.
Keep expanding your capacity to feel good one breath at a time.